Imagine stepping into a room expecting the spotlight to follow you, only to realize the moment was never yours to begin with. That awkward reality has played out in several highly publicized moments involving Meghan Markle, where royal protocol, public reactions, and the attention surrounding Prince Harry created some seriously uncomfortable scenes. And the sixth moment is especially interesting because the reaction wasn't coming from palace staff, it was coming from the crowd. During a royal visit to Morocco, Prince Harry was preparing to inspect a guard of honor as part of the official ceremony. The setup was pretty straightforward. Harry had a specific role, the guards were lined up, and the red carpet was there for him to follow as he carried out his duties. It wasn't exactly a casual walk where everyone could simply join in, but as Harry moved forward, Meghan appeared to step toward the carpet alongside him, seemingly expecting to continue with him. That's when a member of the royal staff intervened. The staffer redirected Meghan away from the carpet, making it clear that she wasn't supposed to walk directly beside Harry during that particular part of the ceremony. The cameras captured the uncomfortable exchange, and Meghan appeared to pause before moving to the side. There was no dramatic confrontation, no shouting match, and no public argument. Instead, it was one of those painfully awkward moments where a quiet correction says everything without anyone needing to raise their voice. The red carpet remained reserved for Harry's official role, while Meghan continued alongside it. Her expression appeared noticeably more restrained, and the atmosphere suddenly felt much more formal. Whether she had misunderstood the protocol or simply needed a quick reminder about how the ceremony worked, the message was clear. This particular moment was about Harry's official duties, and the rules were not changing.
The other thing about this is Meghan looks 10 times more ridiculous by towing the line this way.
And then came another moment that had nothing to do with palace staff and everything to do with the public. During the Queen's Platinum Jubilee service of Thanksgiving at St. Paul's Cathedral, Meghan and Harry emerged as cameras followed their every move. The crowd was enormous, the atmosphere was tense, and then a very different kind of reaction could be heard, boos from sections of the crowd. That reaction instantly became part of the story, turning what should have been a polished royal appearance into another uncomfortable public moment.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry hit with boos and some cheers as they made their first public appearance with the royal family in 2 years. Inside St. Paul's Cathedral, they were seated on the
Not whispers, not a questionable sound in the background, but audible boos that could clearly be heard in the footage. Yes, there were cheers mixed in too, but the negative reaction was noticeable enough that major media outlets reported on the crowd's response. And that's what made the scene so uncomfortable. This wasn't happening outside a political rally, during a protest, or at some heated press event. It happened during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations, one of the biggest royal occasions of the year. With cameras everywhere and thousands of people watching, Meghan and Harry were walking into a historic event when sections of the crowd reacted negatively. The cameras stayed on them, and Meghan continued smiling as she walked. Of course, a smile in that situation doesn't tell us exactly what someone is thinking, but it did create an unmistakably tense television moment. There was no chance to restart the scene or quietly erase it. The cameras had already captured everything. Then, just when the public reaction was becoming the headline, another protocol-heavy moment from 2019 entered the picture. In March 2019, Buckingham Palace hosted a formal reception marking the 50th anniversary of Prince Charles becoming the Prince of Wales. This wasn't some relaxed gathering where guests could wander wherever they wanted. The event was carefully organised, with specific rooms, schedules, and access rules. Before the reception officially got underway, Queen Elizabeth, Charles, and Prince William were scheduled to view historic investiture items in a private room. Access to that area was restricted, with senior members of the royal family and their spouses permitted inside, while other guests were expected to remain in a separate room. And that's where the strict hierarchy of the event suddenly became very noticeable. Simple enough, right? Apparently, things became a lot more complicated. According to reports and commentary surrounding the event, Harry and Meghan were seen near the entrance to the private room before the Queen arrived. Their position attracted attention because the room was supposed to have restricted access, with other guests expected to wait elsewhere. Then came the moment that really fueled the speculation. Some accounts claim Charles told them only senior royals allowed inside. However, the exact wording of any private exchange isn't independently confirmed, so it's worth separating what was actually captured on camera from what has been reported afterward. What the footage did show was a noticeable effort to manage who entered the restricted area. Palace aides and security personnel were involved in directing people away from the room, creating an awkward scene without any dramatic confrontation. No shouting, no public argument, just staff stepping in and trying to keep the event moving according to protocol. And in a tightly controlled royal setting, even a quiet intervention can send a pretty strong message. The entire point of these ceremonies is that everyone knows where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to move, and what they're supposed to do. When that choreography gets disrupted, cameras notice immediately. Then there's another moment that looks small at first, but became surprisingly noticeable. During a formal royal ceremony, Meghan was seen turning toward Harry and appearing to speak or react while the proceedings continued. This wasn't a relaxed family gathering where everyone could casually chat. It was a highly structured public ceremony, with formal seating, precise movements, and cameras watching from multiple angles. Harry appeared to notice her movement and made a subtle gesture encouraging her to face forward. Meghan then turned again, prompting another visible gesture from Harry. The interaction became noticeable because it happened in full view of the cameras, making a tiny piece of royal protocol look like a much bigger moment. Whatever was actually said between them remains private, but the visual was clear. Harry was signaling that it was time to focus forward and follow the ceremony, and Meghan eventually did exactly that. That's what makes the moment so awkward. If this had been a casual red carpet, a guard of honor inspection, or another setting where Harry had a clearly defined official role, you could understand him stepping in. But this was a formal ceremony, and his repeated gestures suggested he was trying to remind Meghan to stay focused on what was happening around them. Still, it's important not to turn a brief camera clip into proof of something nobody outside the two of them can actually know. We can't hear their private conversation, and we don't know exactly what Harry said. What viewers could see was Meghan turning toward him, Harry making a subtle gesture, and then the interaction happening again before she eventually faced forward. That's why the clip attracted so much attention. It created the impression of a small protocol correction happening right in front of the cameras. No shouting, no confrontation, no dramatic scene, just a quiet reminder that formal royal ceremonies have expectations and everyone involved is supposed to follow the choreography. Then, not long after Harry and Meghan's wedding, another family event drew attention. The couple attended Prince Charles's birthday celebration, which should have been one of those straightforward royal appearances. Arrive, smile for the cameras, speak with guests, enjoy the evening, and move on. Nothing particularly dramatic on paper. Yet reports and commentary about the event later claim that Meghan appeared uncomfortable and seemed eager to leave. Some accounts even allege that Camilla overheard Meghan saying she wanted to go home. But here's the catch. That specific private conversation has not been independently confirmed, so it should be treated as an allegation rather than established fact. What can be discussed more safely is the broader perception created by the event. Meghan's body language was closely analysed by royal watchers, with some viewers interpreting her expressions and interactions as signs that she wasn't completely comfortable. Others saw nothing unusual at all. And that's exactly why these moments became such easy material for public debate. A few seconds of footage can turn into a full-blown royal mystery before anyone even knows what was actually happening. According to the story that circulated afterward, Camilla allegedly passed along the concern to Charles, and the decision was reportedly made to keep the evening from becoming uncomfortable. Rather than turning it into a confrontation, the situation was supposedly handled quietly. A short time later, Charles reportedly spoke with Harry and indicated that they could leave. No dramatic argument, no public scene, and no big announcement, just a polite signal that the evening could come to an early end. If the account is accurate, it was handled in the most low-key way possible. Harry and Meghan then said their goodbyes and left earlier than expected. What should have been a relaxed family celebration instead became another moment that attracted plenty of speculation about their relationship with the wider royal family. But there's another story that takes us completely outside the palace and into a New York restaurant. This one comes from Michael Checky, a veteran maitre d' who has worked at several high-end Michelin-starred restaurants. Checky later discussed the alleged encounter in his book, Your Table is Ready, giving readers a behind-the-scenes account of what he says happened. The story reportedly dates back to 2017, when Meghan was dating Prince Harry. According to Checky's account, someone working with Meghan contacted the restaurant and requested a private table. The reason given, according to the story, was that Meghan was dating a prince and therefore needed additional privacy. Checky reportedly explained that the restaurant simply didn't have a private table available. Normally that would be the end of the conversation. No table means no table. But according to his account, the request didn't stop there. The handler allegedly pushed the issue further, reportedly emphasizing that Meghan would soon become a duchess. That's where the story takes an interesting turn. Instead of changing the restaurant's setup, Checky maintained that the request still couldn't be accommodated. Whether every detail of the anecdote happened exactly as described is difficult to independently verify, but the story has certainly become one of those memorable celebrity restaurant tales that keeps getting repeated. According to Chechi's account, his reaction was almost disbelief. He reportedly felt that the royal connection wasn't going to change how the restaurant operated. Staff members had dealt with wealthy and famous guests before, and the idea of someone expecting special treatment simply because they were connected to royalty apparently didn't carry much weight there. Checky claimed that Meghan remained quiet during the exchange, describing her as distant and disengaged. However, that's his recollection of the situation, not something that can be independently confirmed from footage or other first-hand evidence. In the end, according to the story, the royal connection didn't result in a private table or some dramatic VIP upgrade. The restaurant simply stuck to its existing arrangements. And that may have been the most awkward part of the whole anecdote. The name was reportedly dropped, but the rules of the restaurant didn't change. Then the story moves from an upscale New York restaurant to one of the biggest changes in Harry and Meghan's public lives. When the couple stepped back from their senior royal roles, they gained more freedom over where they lived, worked, and built their future. But leaving royal duties also meant that some arrangements connected to their former position could change too, and one of the biggest examples involved their Windsor residence. Not long afterward, they were asked to vacate Frogmore Cottage, the property that had served as their UK home. The decision became public and immediately attracted attention, because the cottage wasn't just another residence, it was closely tied to their time as working members of the royal family. Reports indicated that the couple had been given notice to leave, turning the property into a major symbol of the changing relationship between the Sussexes and the institution they had stepped away from. There was no public showdown at the front door, and no dramatic confrontation caught on camera.
Overnight, a spokesperson for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle saying the couple is being kicked out of their Windsor home, telling NBC News the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have been requested to vacate their residence at Frogmore Cottage.
Instead, the situation unfolded through official statements and reports, making it feel almost strangely quiet for such a significant development. But the message behind it was hard to miss. Stepping away from royal duties also meant accepting that some of the privileges, arrangements, and official connections that came with those duties could change too. Stepping away from senior royal duties also meant stepping further away from the centre of royal events. That became especially obvious during Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee, the massive celebration marking her 70 years on the throne. Harry and Meghan were still part of the occasion, but their position was noticeably different from that of the senior working royals. They did not appear on the Buckingham Palace balcony for the main Trooping the Colour appearance, and they were not placed alongside the core group of working royals during the most prominent public moments. Instead, their appearances were more limited and positioned away from the central family group. At the national service of Thanksgiving at St. Paul's Cathedral, Harry and Meghan were seated behind senior royals, with William and Catherine positioned in the row ahead.
But the Sussexes are now very much second-row royals, taking their seats away from senior family members.
That seating arrangement immediately caught the attention of cameras and royal watchers. Now, here's where the speculation can get carried away. It wasn't publicly announced as some kind of personal punishment or dramatic downgrade. The Sussexes had already stepped back from their roles as senior working royals, so their different position was consistent with the new structure of the monarchy. Still, visually, the difference was impossible to ignore. Titles may remain, but official roles come with their own privileges and responsibilities. Once Harry and Meghan were no longer working members of the royal family, they were no longer expected to occupy the same places at official events as those carrying out royal duties. For a couple who had spent years at the centre of intense public attention, the change was striking. The cameras were still there, the crowds were still watching, and Harry and Meghan were still major figures in the story, but they were no longer standing at the heart of the royal lineup. And that made the Platinum Jubilee one of the clearest visual reminders yet that stepping away from royal duties had genuinely changed where the Sussexes fit into the institution.
Prince Harry is furious, quote-unquote, following the 4-day celebration with claims that he felt ignored, sidelined, and now wants something of an apology.
Taken together, these moments have fueled one of the biggest criticisms surrounding Meghan Markle. The perception that her public image is carefully managed and that attention seems to follow almost every major appearance. But it's important to separate public perception from proven fact. We can't know someone's private motives just by watching a few seconds of footage. What we can see is how dramatically the public conversation has changed. Royal protocol, media attention, family tensions, and highly publicised appearances have all created moments that people continue to debate. To supporters, Meghan has often been unfairly scrutinised. To critics, the repeated controversies suggest a pattern of calculated image management. Either way, the debate clearly isn't going away. And maybe that's the real story here. In the royal world, status doesn't automatically mean getting the centre of the room. Protocol still matters, official roles still matter, and sometimes the cameras capture moments that leave viewers with more questions than answers. So, what do you think? Was Meghan genuinely misunderstood? Or do these moments reveal something bigger about the Sussexes' complicated relationship with royal expectations? Drop your opinion in the comments, keep it respectful, but don't hold back. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who follows the royal drama. Turn on notifications too, because there's plenty more coming your way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.